What if everything we think we know about human history is not wrong, but radically incomplete? History, as we are taught it, is orderly, linear, comforting. Stone tools lead to agriculture. Agriculture leads to cities. Cities lead to empires. And we, naturally, stand at the pinnacle. But this neat progression collapses the moment we begin asking the wrong questions. Not what survived, but what disappeared. Not what was recorded, but what was buried, dismissed, or quietly shelved. Because history is not merely what happened, it is what was allowed to remain visible. The Paluxy River Anomaly. In the late 1930s, along the limestone banks of the Paluxy River in Texas, drought lowered the water level and exposed ancient stone beds, geological layers dated to the early Cretaceous period, over 110 million years old. What emerged was not ambiguous erosion, not pareidolia, but clear, repeated, anatomically coherent tracks. Three-toed dinosaur footprints, theropods, massive and unmistakable. And beside them, embedded in the same strata, footprints shaped like human feet. Heel, arch, toes. Some measured nearly twice the size of a modern man's foot. These were not isolated impressions. They formed walking patterns, parallel paths, as if two beings, separated by what we believe to be impossible spans of time, had once moved across the same wet ground. When these findings were presented to museums and academic institutions, the response was not outrage or investigation. It was silence. The museum declined the samples. The reports were not debated. They were ignored. No major institution wanted to touch evidence that threatened the foundational timeline of human evolution, because to acknowledge it would require rewriting not a chapter, but the entire book. The pattern of suppression. This was not an isolated incident. Across the world, similar anomalies follow the same pattern. Discovery, initial excitement, institutional discomfort, quiet disappearance. Consider sonar mapping of the Mediterranean seafloor. During Cold War naval surveys, operators detected networks of straight lines, geometric structures, and harbor-like formations at depths that would have been dry land over 12,000 years ago during the last ice age. Roads, breakwaters, artificial platforms, civilizations where none were supposed to exist, or the Antarctic ice cores, drilled for climate research, revealing traces of tropical plant matter sealed hundreds of thousands of years deep beneath the ice. Palm pollen, fern spores, evidence that Antarctica was not always the frozen graveyard we know today, but once supported ecosystems incompatible with our accepted timelines. These findings are not front-page history. They are footnotes, appendices, or worse, never published at all. Not because they are disproven, but because they are inconvenient. Cycles, not lines. The deeper we look, the more the linear model of civilization begins to fray. Doggerland, now submerged beneath the North Sea, was once a vast inhabited landscape connecting Britain to mainland Europe. Forests, rivers, settlements, erased not by war, but by rising seas. Beneath the Sahara, satellite imagery reveals ancient river systems and city-sized irrigation networks dating back 8,000 years, long before Egypt's dynasties rose. And in Australia, Aboriginal cultures maintained continuous astronomical, ecological, and navigational knowledge for over 70,000 years, a civilization so stable it never needed monuments of stone to prove its existence. But stability does not photograph well. It does not conquer. It does not write in marble. So it is ignored. Civilization, it seems, is not a ladder. It is a pulse. From ancient silence to modern erasure. This architecture of forgetting does not belong only to deep time. It is alive, systematic, and brutally efficient. The same mechanisms that bury inconvenient ancient histories were perfected in the 20th century during humanity's most industrialized descent into horror. Behind the official narratives of the Second World War, flags, parades, victories, exists another archive, the silent files.
science without consent. In camps like Dachau, Buchenwald, and Auschwitz, human beings were transformed into data points. Hypothermia experiments submerged prisoners in ice water until organs failed. Altitude chambers simulated high-altitude flight until lungs ruptured. Poison trials measured time to death. After the war, these records did not disappear. They were reclassified. Through Operation Paperclip, the United States absorbed not only German scientists, but their research. Data extracted through torture became the foundation for aerospace medicine, survival protocols, and early astronaut training. The origin of the data was erased, the victims anonymized, justice postponed, indefinitely. Because in the new Cold War calculus, knowledge mattered more than morality. The pact no one wanted to examine. The Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact is remembered as a temporary non-aggression agreement. In reality, it was far more. It included economic cooperation, resource exchange, intelligence sharing, coordinated suppression of resistance movements. Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union did not merely avoid conflict, they collaborated. And when that collaboration culminated in the Kattenforce massacre, where over 22,000 Polish officers, intellectuals, and elites were executed by the NKVD, the truth was known, but it was suppressed. Churchill knew, Roosevelt knew, and both chose silence. Because truth, once again, was inconvenient. The victims were murdered twice. First by bullets, then by denial. Immunity for data. This moral compromise extended across the globe. Japan's Unit 731 conducted biological warfare experiments, vivisections, plague dissemination, frostbite trials. After the war, the United States granted immunity to its leaders. Why? Because their research had value. Human suffering was converted into unique datasets. Crimes against humanity became classified assets. Meanwhile, democratic nations conducted their own experiments. At Porton Down in the UK, thousands of servicemen were exposed to nerve agents without informed consent. They were told it was for national security. Their pain was logged, their questions ignored. The city that never existed. And then there was Oak Ridge, Tennessee. In 1943, an entire city vanished from maps. 75,000 people lived behind fences, under false addresses, sworn to secrecy. Young women turned dials, recorded numbers, adjusted meters. They did not know they were enriching uranium. The Manhattan Project consumed resources on a scale never before seen, including 14,000 tons of silver, secretly borrowed from the US Treasury to serve as electrical conductors. History celebrates the bomb. It rarely remembers the silence that built it. When the silence breaks. After the war, Germany attempted to forget. Denazification became selective. Accountability softened. Silence became cultural survival. For decades, the dominant response was not denial, but avoidance. It was not until the 1960s that a new generation forced the question, what did you do? Germany today enforces remembrance not as symbolism, but as structure. Holocaust denial is illegal. Education is mandatory and multidisciplinary. Memorials interrupt daily life. The Stolperstein, small brass stones embedded in sidewalks, force pedestrians to bow their heads to read names. Memory is built into the ground, the ocean beneath the map. History is not a lie, but it is not the truth either. It is the sunlit layer of a much deeper ocean. Below it lies the midnight zones, lost civilizations, suppressed discoveries, classified atrocities. Structures still stand in the darkness, bearing the weight of everything above them. To look deeper requires humility, to accept that we are not unique, not final, not exempt. Civilization is not a destination. It is a pulse. And beneath our cities, our archives, and our myths lie echoes of something older, unfinished, and still watching.